everyone, thank you for stopping by to see what I'm going to show you today. So, for February 2025 channel member live with Crafty Al, we were to choose our own path. So, she gave us four areas to choose from. So, there was size, theme, technique, and then embellish it. So for size, I went with A2. For theme, I went with spring. For technique, I went with tearing. And for embellish it, I went with flower or flowers. I wanted to try this new technique that I've seen recently called the fault line. And that's what I ended up doing. And so I'm going to show you the cards that I created for that channel member live that I attended. But then I'm going to create a couple more so that I can show you how they are made. Now, the other two I'm going to create, there's two different ways to do it. So I want to show you the two different ways. But let me show you the cards that I created for the channel member live. So here it is. And this is the second way that I've seen it created. And I love it. I think it is so cool. I like the fact, and see the tearing, the technique that I'm doing, the tearing, that's done here on these papers. Now, I did tear it with cardstock on both of them. But I want to try something different. I might make this one here designer paper. And you can also make, do some embossing on this part, or you can emboss here. So there's just a lot of different ways. I'm only going to show you the two ways to actually create it. Now, the papers you use and any other things that you do will be totally up to you. But this was the one that I learned. But then I decided to try something different on the channel member live. And I switched up how it got laid down on my card. So I did another one. And here is that one. So I guess either way, they're very cute. I don't know which one I like more. But I'm going to show you a couple ways on how to create your own. So let's go ahead and get started with that. Okay, I am going to use the same paper pack that I used on these two cards, which is called You're a Peach. I'm just going to be using some different papers from this paper pack. Now we're going to get the one that I don't like out of the way. I think it's a little more complicated, and I know it is because I have a mess over here. I could show it to you on how I just kept messing up. But maybe once you get it under control, then maybe it's not such a mess. But it's not one of my favorites, and I'll kind of explain that as I go and why. So the first thing we need is now I'm going to do basic white, first of all, because I'm going to be doing stamping on this. Now, you could make your card base any color you want, but as far as your decorating it, you might have to then put it on your sentiments on another piece and pop it up and all that stuff. But I wanted to make this simple, so I'm going to make my card base the basic white. So it's going to be 4 1/4 across this way and 8 1/2 this way. And you're going to score it at 5 1/2. So then that makes it your typical A2 card. So that's the first piece we need. And then we're going to need, for our tearing part, we're going to need a piece of designer paper. And you got keep in mind that this is the piece that we're going to be folding back, you know, crinkling and folding back because we're tearing it. So it's just a matter of what you want to see. And I'll show you the card, the sample that I made. So it's this one here. See, so you can, I really kind of wanted to see the green closest to this paper, but you can see that you're going to still be able to see the other side. So always keep that in mind. And I was okay with that. So on this piece, we're going to need 4 1/4 across, 2 1/2 down. So there's that piece that we need. Then for the part that we want to see, the main focal point, I'm going to do this design, and this is 4 1/4 by 4. Now, be generous. I was trying to be conservative, and I thought to myself, well, if I make this 3 down, then I can get more from a sheet of 12 by 12. But let me show you. Because I was being stingy with my paper, when you start to roll this back, you can see that you can see the card base underneath there. So that's why you have to be pretty generous, and you can see that up here. So it was just a little shy because once I started crinkling and rolling back, I didn't have enough of that paper. So don't get skimpy on that area. And I can tell you another reason why I don't like this way so much, and it was from another person that I watched. It's for the same reasons. Because you have to cut everything at 4 1/4 for this kind of design that we're doing, then, you know, it's nice to be able to cut things in 4s or 3s so that you can get more from your 12 by 12s. But with this one, you have to cut it at 4 1/4 if it's going to go out to the edges. And so that's why it's not the most popular with some people, because of that. Because then you're not going to be able to get 3 across on a 12 by 12. But sometimes you just have these extra pieces that are bigger, so it's not going to matter, right? Okay, so we've got that piece, and then last, we need another piece of 4 1/4 by 5 1/2, and I'm going to say shy here for your basic white or whatever color you're using for your card base, because what's going to end up happening is we're going to be gluing all these pieces onto this side, and you're going to see all that when you open up the card. So this is basically a way to put that in your card and hide all that that tearing and gluing and stuff. Now, I say shy because of the crease here in the fold. And if you make it exactly 5 1/2, then what might happen is when you go to close this, it might push this down, and then you'd have a little hanging off the bottom. But I guess that's not a problem because you could just snip it off. But that's why I said make this 5 1/2, but just shy of 5 1/2. Okay, so now I think we've got all our pieces. And let's go ahead and get started with this. So I'm going to take my designer paper, and again, you got to decide which side you're going to roll up. Because originally I was thinking in my mind, oh, I want to see this. But when you roll it up, I wasn't going to see this so much. I was going to see this side. So make sure you put it down before you do your tearing, knowing what you want to see when you do rolling up. Okay, so I'm just going to kind of lay it down there on this part of my card base, the shorter part. And I'm going to start. Now you don't want to get too close to this edge because, again, you're going to be gluing this to the other torn part, and you want to have room for that. Otherwise, you might not be able to see a whole lot of the designer paper, and you won't have a lot to roll up if you get too close to this edge. So I'm going to kind of go in maybe 3/4, and I'm going to start tearing from about 3/4, and I'm going to go down to try to stop it around 3/4 down here. Doesn't have to be exact, but I'm just kind of giving you a heads up on why I do it this way. So I'm going to just start tearing it, and you can, tear it any way you want, but you're just going to kind of be coming down at an angle. And it'll start to move on you, and if that bothers you, you can always put some, the removable adhesive, but I don't think it's going to matter. So, see, I might have went a little too close down here, but it's going to have to work, right? So now, you have to bear with me because this gets a little complicated. That's why I don't like this one as much as I do the ones that I created for the Channel Member Live. So now we're going to take this and see, we're going to put it underneath here. And always keep in mind that you don't want to glue too close to either of the edges because that's going to prevent you from rolling it up. So what I did to make my life easier, and you can do it however you want, but remember, this part's going to be covered eventually. But what I did is I looked at it and I says, how much of this designer paper do I want to see? And I kind of laid it like that. Then I turned it over and kind of just decided, okay, that's about where I want. So I just made a little mark to show me kind of where to put my adhesive. So that's just kind of my guide point. Now I'm going to remember not to get too close to this tear line because I want to fold it back. So I'm just going to put my adhesive kind of underneath those little tick marks, and not getting too close to that tear line. And see, if you look, that's going to be a little close down there. I won't be able to roll it back as much as I'm going to be able to roll this back. So then I'm going to take my piece again, and I'm going to just lay it down based on those tick marks. So we've got that first part glued down. I'm going to take off these dimensions on the back. So that part's done. Now we're going to take this one that we tore and again put it behind and determine how much you want to see of that designer paper that you want to roll back. And then I'm going to do it with the little tick marks because that was just easier for me. But I'm sure everyone will come up with, but it just gives me a guideline on where to put my glue and where not to put my glue. So I'm just going to put that down. Again, trying to stay away from too close to that tear mark. And then I'll go ahead and lay this down based on those little tick marks and getting it. Doesn't have to be so even, right? Because you just don't want it hanging off. And if it does hang off the sides, you can just trim it. Okay, so then I was like, okay, this is going to be interesting because on the mistakes that I made earlier, I thought, oh, well, I'll just glue this down to the inside. Well, no, that doesn't work because then you're not going to have a card that opens. So I thought, well, should I lay this here? You could just lay it there, eyeball it, and not glue it, not glue this down, and then just figure out where to glue this. But that made me nervous because if I got too much glue on the back here, it could possibly touch down here where I don't want it to touch. So I thought, okay, well, we'll solve this. We'll bring in the piece that's going to be our hiding piece. And I'm going to turn it over because you get those rough edges and it's going to, we're eventually going to want to see it like this. See, so I'm going to go ahead and just lay this in here, but not glue it down. But then I can work on that piece. So I'm going to glue this piece down. And this was not one of my favorite ones. I like the other technique that I'm going to show you next. And it's the same one I did for the channel member live because I didn't have to think as much. Okay, so here we're going to just kind of even it up from the top to bottom, making sure we have about the same distance. And if it's a directional, see, now I did that on the wrong side, but it's okay. Oh, did I do it wrong? Let me see. See, this one's complicated to me. I mean, it's still going to work, right? Yeah, I just freaked out a little there for a moment. So anyway, let's go back to what we were doing. It's fine. See, this is the part that scares me at times. Okay, so now we're going to take this, either one. Let's start with this one up here. Let's put glue. Again, trying to avoid the part we're going to fold back. But now I don't have to worry. I can put it all the way because we're going to lay it right on top of that one piece. So I'm going to make sure this is back in here as even as I can get it. We're not gluing it down. We're just, now we can fold this over. And then that'll be, see, now we have a panel that's going to work just fine. Okay, now we have to adhere this piece. Now, if you're uneasy about stamping after it's put together, you could easily do your stamping ahead of time. But I didn't, but that also makes me nervous. So it's up to you on how you want to do that. So I'm going to go ahead and put my adhesive on here. Again, staying away from that tear line there. And then I'm going to line this up with the bottom. And there we go. See, so now all that other stuff is covered. And if you have anything hanging off like this that bothers you, you can trim it off. But I think it looks okay to me. So now I'm going to do my stamping. So this is why I said if this makes you nervous to stamp after you've put it together, then you might want to do your stamping before you do all that gluing, just to make sure that you don't make a mistake. Because at that point, if you make a mistake, well, you've already done the tearing, so you might have to start all over. I don't know. Again, this is why this style is not my favorite. The other one is a whole lot easier to me. So I'm using this All That You Are stamp set. That's the same one I used for my channel member live card. And I'm going to use Pear Pizzazz because that's the color of the stems that's on these flowers. And here we go. Let's just make sure I get it. And I'm going to do it up in this corner because it's the wider area. Okay, got lucky there. Then I'm going to, oops, you know what? I forgot. I need one more piece. We might have to do that here. So now I'm going to take my Balmy Blue because that's what the flowers are. And I'm going to ink this up. Now I had to re-ink my ink pad because when I stamped it on the other card, and I'll show you the difference here in a minute. So I'm just going to put that little flower down here in the corner. And see, when I originally did my sample, my ink pad wasn't that inked up and it was really light. And I like the darker. It just makes it pop more and it matches the dark parts of the flowers. See, and this is what I do. I leave these dirty out here and then I lay something in it. So I'll have to go back in with my eraser and erase that little spot there. So don't do that. Okay, now the other thing that I forgot to do was cut me a piece of paper because now maybe you don't want to do this. Some people, when their card bases are basic white, they don't worry about putting another piece of cardstock in here. But I like the way that looks. So, and plus I'll need a piece of something to decorate the bottom. So let me move these out of my way here so I don't make a total mess out of everything. And let me cut a piece to go inside my card. So this will be 4 by 5 1/4. And then, so you'll need to add that to your measurements if you want that for the inside of your card. And then I'm going to take a strip off of here, probably 3/4 inch, 3/4 inches here, and make sure that it's 4, because I like to decorate the inside of my cards. Okay, so there's 2 pieces that I forgot to pre-cut. So now I'm going to go ahead and again with the Pear Pizzazz. I don't know if I said that color before. Hopefully I didn't say Mossy Meadow. So I'm going to ink up Happy Birthday because it says flowers bloom all for you on the front. And then on the inside, we'll just do Happy Birthday. And there we go. Then I'm going to close this up before I make a mess. I'm going to take and put my little piece of designer paper at the bottom. And then I can put this on the inside of my card. Now I thought about doing some sponging around the edge of this if I wanted it. Or what really would have been cute was to die cut this with a stitched edging of some sort. That would have given it a definite different look on the inside here. So you can do something like that to really distinguish that there's another panel in here. But for the sake of this video, we're just going to go like this. And I don't usually do glue on this one because I have sometimes gotten heavy-handed with my glue, and I've looked inside and I've seen the glue poking through. I mean, you can see the shape of the glue. So I typically just like to use my snail adhesive to adhere my inside panels of my cards. And yeah, I probably use way too much adhesive, but makes me feel comfortable. So then, trying to get this lined up as good as you can. And there we go. So there is that fault line card. Now we're going to move on to the more easier one, and then you can determine which one you like the best. Okay, let's clean up this mess and get on to the next one. Before we get on to the next one, I left out the most important part. We need to crinkle our edges. I've been talking about it the whole time, right? So you're just going to take your fingernails or whatever you have and just start rolling those edges back. I can't even believe that I forgot that. Okay, so now if you don't have fingernails and this is too hard for you, what I saw one lady doing was she pulled out her take your pick tool and this little spatula end, but that's because she had glued too close. So you could, use whatever you need to do. And this doesn't have to be neat or anything, right? Because you want it to look sloppy. So just keep tearing it back. And if it tears, that's the fun of this card, right? So you can do it however works best for you. And then you can, like I even thought about gluing that down so that I could make sure I see the green, but I don't know. I think it's fine like this. So then we'll do the other side. And, this is, I just think it's so funny that I was like, oh, I'm done with this card. I don't have to. And then I left out the most important part. So I didn't really understand why they called it a fault line card. And then we talked about that on the channel member live. And Crafty Al says, well, because, when the earth opens up, and that's what the fault line is. And I'm like, oh, never even thought about that. So, but it makes sense. That's why you really need to roll this back, because you want it to look like it's broken open, right? Okay. So there we go. That looks pretty good, I think. I like it. Okay, now we're going to clean up this mess and get on to the easier one. Now I'm going to work on the one that I like the best. So I don't normally make top folding cards, but I went ahead and did it on this one. So I'm going to use Old Olive for my card base. So that's 4¼ by 11 scored at 5½. Then the two pieces that I'm going to be tearing, I'm going to use white, the basic white at 4 by 2 3/4, and then a piece of designer paper at 4 by 2 3/4. And I've picked this one because I want to see mostly this side. So there are those two pieces. Then the part that I want to see mostly, that's going to be between the fault line, is going to be this piece that's at 4 by 4. And then for the inside of my card, I remembered this time 4 by 5 1/4. And then to decorate the bottom of the inside of my card, 4 by, and I do 3/4. Okay, so let's go ahead and get started with this. Hopefully I did it right. I think so. Okay, so let's do our tearing first. So since I want to see mostly this as I fold up, I'm going to tear with that face down. Okay, same kind of tearing as we did before. Just, come in a little bit and start your tearing. And try to end up kind of in the same place as you get down to the bottom. So there we go. All right, so now I'm going to go ahead and want to make sure that I'm doing this right, because I feel like I'm missing a step. Because I don't want to, I don't know. Yeah, I don't know that this is going to work. I think what I did was I adhered everything to a piece of basic white. Now, I don't know if that's necessary. Let me think this through. Yeah, it would be, because then you're going to do all your gluing. Okay, we're going to do that. So we're going to steal the piece that we're using for the inside, and we're going to use that. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and glue this down. Alrighty, so let's get this adhered to our 4 by 5 1/4 basic white. And we're going to just line it up so that you have about the same border on the top and bottom. Doesn't have to be exact. And then we're going to put this underneath. And see, so now I don't have to worry about where the glue goes, right? The only place I got to be worried about is making sure it's not close to the tear line. So I'm going to go ahead and put some glue on this piece. And then I'll go ahead and put this on top of here. See, I have too much glue there, so I'm going to get my little craft mat out here and decide how much border I want to see of my designer paper. we go. And I'll do the same thing now that I have my craft mat out. Take this, put it underneath, and I mean, I could mark it on the back there, but I'll just kind of try not to stay away from that edge over there as much. Staying away, and also from the tear line. And then, let's see here. Okay, now what did I do? Let's get it lined up correctly. Okay. Put this down. Deciding how much I want to show. That's why it's probably good to use like a liquid glue so you can move it around, but you don't have to. Okay, so there we have our two pieces. Now I'm going to put them down on my card here. Now here's where you could do your stamping in case you mess up, because then you would only have to redo your tear parts. And so I think I'm going to do that. I'm going to do my stamping while I have that. So I'm going to stamp my sentiment in Old Olive, since that is my card base. There we go. Find a nice place for it. And then I'm going to stamp my flowers in Calypso Coral, because that's one of the colors in the designer paper. I'm going to move this out of the way. Okay. Let's put that down here in this corner. So cute. Okay. Now we can go ahead and adhere these, because we know that we didn't make a mess. And see, this is why I like this one much better than the other one, because other than trying to stay away from keeping the glue away from the tear line, I just feel like it's easier. I felt like the other one was, or maybe it's just my brain doesn't function that way. But this one to me comes together a whole lot faster. Plus, the cutting dimensions lends itself better to a 12 by 12 so that you could get more, because you're cutting at, this is at 4 by 4, where the other one had to be at 4 1/4. And, you know, then that just leaves more room for extras at the end. And we like no scraps, right? Okay, so now all we have to do is do our little folding. Hey, I remembered this time. See, I just feel this one comes together so much nicer. But it could be just me. Maybe the other one would be good if you did it more often. But like I said, I'm with that other lady that I watched, that she likes this one better because of the cutting dimensions. And I kind of tend to agree there. So on this one, when I'm rolling it up, see, I wanted to see some of those polka dots underneath that paper. I just thought that was so cute to show those polka dots. And you can smash it down, because it's going to get smashed down when you put it in your envelope to mail. See, here's the other thing I probably should have thought of, though. Look, see? You probably, when you're stamping, I probably should have thought that through better because I don't want to cover up my image that I stamped. See all these little tricks that you learn when you're making these cards, and that could have come down a little bit more, but it's okay. We're going with it. Yeah, but I think it's a cool technique. And the thing is like this is kind of like hanging out, but since we're going to adhere it to a card base, it's not going to matter. It's still going to fit in the envelope, okay? So let's go ahead and do that. I just think this came together quicker. I don't know. I don't know what all your thoughts are on it, but I like this one better because I like the fact that I can have a different color card base, because I really like that, so that when I put my white on the inside, it's not white on white. And I just like it better. Maybe I like more color. I don't know what it is, but now I have to cut another piece for the inside of my card. See, I'm just like, this is probably why I don't do a whole lot of lives, because I don't like flailing around like I am here. And I'm not doing too much mistakes, but when you do lives, you're like there, and you're like having to deal with it right there in front of everybody. And I don't know. I don't like that as much. Okay, so now I'm going to stamp my sentiment. I'm going to use the old olive again. My happy birthday. And then we're about done with this one. So cute. So the other thing that I was going to tell you is, if you don't want to see as much of this, you can always make, like on that first card, like if you didn't want to see as much paper here, the designer paper, what you would do is you would add, so I made, I think it was it 8.5? I don't remember, but you would just make it longer. So you could do like 9, 9.25, 9.5, you know, so that the front part that was the shorter when we made this card, you would have more, so you would see less of this. But I kind of like seeing that paper there in the middle. So it's up to you. If you wanted to see less of this paper, you would just have to make the parts that you tear a little longer, if that makes any sense. Hopefully it does. But I kind of like seeing the designer paper. To me, is what makes the card. And I wanted to have the areas where I stamped to be less areas where I had to decorate stuff. So that's why I did it that way, but you don't have to, depending on what look you're going for. So let's go ahead and put this at the bottom, and then we'll adhere it to the inside, and this card will be done. So hopefully I made this clear enough and that it wasn't too confusing, so that you can try it on your own. So let's see. Yeah, I'm not a big fan of top folding cards. The ones that I did for the channel member live, I made them side folding. Now, what I did on this one was I just turned it around. So when I had, so like say if it was this one, I just took one of these panels and turned it the opposite direction, which meant that, you know, that probably wouldn't work as much, I don't think, because you would have to turn the papers over. So that means that you wouldn't see the polka dots on this one. You would only see the other side. But that would be another look you could do also. But if you're using cardstock like I did in this case, it really wouldn't make a difference. So you can play around with this and do a lot of different things. I mean, I kind of like this look as well. So I guess what you could do is do two, if you wanted that, if you're going to make more than one card, you could tear with this design on one side, you know, as you tear. Then the other one you could tear with the other side and then flip-flop them across the two cards. I mean, there's a lot of different things that you can do. So there are my finished cards. So I don't know. I think they're fun. Took me a little bit of time to learn them, but let's try to get them all here in the camera so that you can see them all. I think they're cute though. I like it. I like that crinkly look. So let me know what you think. So I hope you enjoyed this video, this tutorial that I did. If you did, you can show me your joy by giving it a thumbs up. Okay, well, until my next video, have fun crafting, everyone. And remember, choose joy, and may God bless you all. Bye-bye.